Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Digital Nomad World weekly series. I'm Becky, and once again, I will be your host. And today, we're going to be talking about Kaya Connections, which brings nomads together for 1 month retreats with my guest, Marie Tuason. Marie, welcome to the show.
Hi, Becky. I'm so happy to be here.
Hi, so happy to meet you. I've heard great things about you in the Nomad community and excited to learn more about Kaya Connections. But first of all, Marie, as I always ask my guests, can you tell us about your background and your digital nomad story?
Sure. So I was born and raised in the Philippines. So I'm Filipina, soon to be a Spanish citizen. Let's see until when the Spanish bureaucracy would provide me with my passport. But my story of nomadism would probably start when I moved to Germany around 8 years ago. So I started as an intern. I was a medical engineer, so completely like a 180 of what I'm doing now. And I worked there for 3.5 years, got promoted from junior engineer to senior engineer, got burnt out, didn't know what I wanted to do. So I gave myself a supposedly 1 year gap year. Middle of that, I broke my arm and I thought, oh, maybe it's the universe telling me to actually figure out what I need to do in my career. And found myself being a content creator. My TikTok blew up, realized I'm really good in marketing, which is something I'm already doing in my university days. So it's kind of like me coming back to my passions. And even before I was already like nomading, but never really thought of myself as a nomad. So my company before in Germany, they would give me some work from home benefits and like once or twice a week, and I would combine it with holidays. So I was like, yeah, I would be like 2 weeks in Croatia or 2 weeks in Berlin or somewhere like that. And but I didn't really think of myself as nomad. It was in 2021 that I first joined the nomad community in Madeira, where somebody said, "Are you a nomad?" And I said, "No, I'm not." But he was like, "But you're working remotely, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he said, like, "And your mindset is this and this." And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Then you're a nomad." So that's kind of like how I realized that being a digital nomad, it's not really a occupation or it's not really like the type of job you have. I would say being a digital nomad is a mindset. So it's our openness, it's our ability to, connect with one another. So that's kind of like how it started for me. And then, yeah, when I had my gap year that ended early, I started my own business into digital marketing. That's still something I do now. So I have my marketing agency where I help wellness and travel brands improve their socials and boost their sales through it. So with organic social media, paid ads, and influencer marketing. In between there, I also go back home, every once in a while. And I realized, like, wouldn't it be such a great thing to bring my nomad friends back home? I always nomaded in Europe. And I always tell them about my experiences in Southeast Asia, and they would be like, wow, like, I can't fathom the differences. And I was like, that's true. So 3 years ago, I decided to bring some friends to the Philippines just to showcase to them. And I realized, wow, this is something that I really love to do. I am a community builder. I used to be a community manager before. So this is just so natural for me. And that kind of like started my second business in that's mostly related to the nomads, which is you already explained, kayaconnections. So our goal is to provide deeper connections to our retreat participants while at the same time giving the more authentic version of like having a nomad who's going back home to tour you around. So right now we're having a lot of it in the Philippines. We're launching a few places this year as well, and the next year as well in Latin America. So that's kind of like how my nomad journey is. Right now I'm in Bansko in Bulgaria. I discovered it last year, fell in love with the nature, and I bought an apartment here, so I'm here right now.
Wow, what a journey you've been
I
on. And
know.
yeah, I'm sure Bonsko also feels very different you like to the Philippines, and I could see where you'd be attracted to that too. But and also plugging into these nomad communities. When you met the nomads in Madeira that first time and someone told you you're a nomad, did you feel like you were coming home in a sense to a family? Did you feel like you had found a kind of family for the first time? Because I know you're saying you didn't know you were a nomad.
Yeah. Family wise, I wouldn't say so. It's more a relief that like I feel
Uh,
validated. I feel like these people understand me. I place a lot of value in the word family. I don't really say it like, oh, we're family, oh, we're family. So it's a big value for me. But at the same time, this community aspect of like, yes, like I do feel that I am accepted here and I am growing here. That's the most important thing. Self-growth is one of my core values. And when I joined that community, I was like, these are my people. These are the people that will not judge me, and these are the people that will continue to inspire me through and through.
Yeah, and I think that's something I wanted to highlight as we start talking about kayaconnections, because we've covered a lot of different conferences and retreats and communities on this channel and on Spotify. And it seems like this really is becoming more and more important in our lives as we become kind of more isolated into our devices and, working sometimes alone from home. And so you want to reach out and you want to connect. So what are some things that kayaconnections is going to offer when people come together for 1 month in these places, like you said, where a nomad is returning to their home to show you around?
Yeah, so we have a few benefits for our retreat participants who join us. One of which is the most simple one. Like when you're moving or when you're traveling to one place, you kind of want to be an extrovert, but you're also like a little bit of an introvert. I consider myself an extrovert with a low social battery. So I like to meet people, I like to discover new things with different people, but at the same time, I don't have enough energy to continue meeting more and more people every single day. So with a set group of people for the next 28 days, I feel like I found my core group that will also not judge me and will understand what I'm coming from, that I don't need to explain myself over and over again. I don't need to repeat what I do, where I'm from, what all of these things. And instead, we just like, let's enjoy a nice meal together. Let's enjoy like exploring a sunset together. So that's one of the things, like by having a program that everybody comes and goes at the same time, a lot of people can benefit from that. And the second thing is obviously having a community manager that is not only from that place, but also a nomad. So it's a thing that it's an authentic experience where we prioritize the needs of nomads, that because we know what a nomad needs. It's not like a lot of other programs where, yes, we have a local community manager there, but they don't know anything about how a nomad lives. And it's also not like another other programs where it is a nomad who's, let's say, lived there for 2, 3 years, but they don't understand still the culture of that place, or it's still different with the stories that we had from our childhood. I keep on telling people about some stories that I had from my childhood that people cannot fathom that, wow, that actually happens, because this is the life that I lived for, let's say, 16 years. So that's kind of like the thing that we're trying to showcase to people, that like we have these stories that are so authentic to ourselves that we want to share to you guys in our effort as well to educate people. And in a sense, I started this as a way for me not to contribute to gentrification, being like, hey, we're here, we understand what the locals are feeling, and we want to make sure that our relationship with the locals as nomads are intact. We integrate ourselves with the local community regardless of the language barriers, regardless of the cultural barriers as well. We are trying our best as well, like, a lot of mostly Western nomads, when they move to a different place, especially in, let's say, Southeast Asia or Latin America, they try to impose their culture. There's a lot of output, but there's not a lot of input that they want to say to achieve, and say they would always complain about, why is it this way? Why is it that way? But for us, it's like it's more about education. The more that we explain to them why this is happening, like why, for example, for us Filipinos, shared quarters is such an easy thing, because we have this concept of bayanihan, which is a keyword which means like a community that helps each other. So this means like my house is open all the time for you. Filipinos have the biggest hospitality. So we don't care if we're gonna do in shared services, shared private spaces. That's something that we try to do. So in a way, we're like balancing out that, like, yes, we understand the needs of the nomads. Like we're gonna give you private rooms, but at the same time, we're also gonna educate you like why we have these cultural things that we have that is hard to fathom, but that is just how we live.
Yeah, no, it reminds me. I recently took a group of people to, well, we traveled to Japan together. I spent 13 years there. And I remember being
Mm.
struck by everyone coming in to these small restaurants all throughout Tokyo. And they didn't understand the importance of being quiet in these places that the locals work together to maintain. And I personally witnessed some of the nomads being kind of yelled at and told to be quiet or even asked to leave, but they didn't understand why can't I do that? So I totally understand you and how important it can be for a local or someone really knowledgeable to bring you in so that you just have a better launching point for your experience in those countries.
Yes, I really believe in education as a form of like conflict settlement. I feel like a lot of people are just culturally in that, but it's not because they don't know it or like they don't want to learn it. It's just because they never had the resources for them to learn these things, you know? So that's what we're trying to provide. It's just it's also like psychology, you know, like a lot of people, they're questioners. They question why this, why that, and they will never adhere to rules unless it's explicitly like explained to them. So that's kind of like our way of telling them, like, hey, this is the reason, like, please respect it. And it's really interesting to see how different people kind of like act towards it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Okay, let's talk about your area of expertise. So, are you from, if I understand it right, the island of Siargao?
I'm not born there. I used to live there for a long time, almost 10 years now. And it was like an on back and forth, back and forth. I was studying in the capital actually, and then I had to come back there. So I always have trips there. It's actually really hard because we have 7,000 islands, and the best way to just to go from one island to another would be to a plane ride, and it can be expensive. So I try as much as possible. I have a lot of friends turned family there as well. So it's very close to my heart. It's like you. It's like saying like I am technically not from the island, and the island has its own culture. But I am Filipino, and we do have a lot of things still in common with that island. And I would like my biggest priority right now is to preserve the nature of the island.
Yeah, I understand. Like with more than 10 years of experience, you'd be the perfect nomad to bring people there because that is where the retreat, the next retreat is going to be for Kayak Connections,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay. Can you tell us about Siargao? What makes this island so special out of the 7,000?
Where do I even start? Yeah, when ironically, actually, when I first arrived there, I didn't really fall in love with it. And I realized the main reason why was because I could not afford it. I was a Filipino, I was earning a Filipino salary. Well, I wasn't even earning that time, I was a student. And it was just like, you know, I felt the gap between the foreign expats who were there and the Filipinos who were there. It was only in 2020 when I came back, which I didn't actually want to. I wanted to go to Bali and just like escape the German winter. But I came back to Siargao instead, that I realized, wow, I can actually thrive in this place if I had the proper resources. And that time we didn't have internet too much. Like it was very choppy. Right now it's perfect. We have Starlink already. We have better accommodations and the value of money. But before that like shift really, it's just simple slow living that I loved. So in 2020 I came back and I felt that there was nothing is actually as important as being by the nature. And I remember that time I was applying for masters. I got rejected to a few universities that I wanted to apply for. And I was said, I'm supposed to be sad, but I'm here right now. And this feels so trivial compared to what I'm feeling now. And that's what I realized. Like I'm prioritizing my life differently when I came to Siargao. So actually like a lot of people when they check the prices in Siargao, it's actually more expensive than they think just because they think it's in Southeast Asia. So I would always say that while yes, actually the value for money in Siargao would not be the best, you are paying for the untouched beauty. You are paying for the nature. You are paying for this type of paradise that I have never seen. I haven't seen in anything else. They have this saying, which I totally hated before. They were like, oh, it's like Bali of 10 years ago. And I was like, no, it's not. It's not. And then I came to Bali and I realized, yep, it's a little bit like that, like it. Bali, though, like Canggu and Ubud and Uluwatu, I've been there, and it's very similar to Siargao, but more, way more developed. And I could see the progress of development in Siargao, and I see it really fast. Like it's insane how much every time I come back there every 6 months, and it's insane how much the island would change every 6 months. So I'm saying now that like yes, it is like Bali of 10 years ago. And if you really want to see it in its prime, you have to go now, or else in the next few years, it might not have the same charm as before. Although, of course, the charm would develop as how the island would develop, but it's the untouched barefootness, if I can say it properly. Like, it's the barefoot necessities of the island and the slow living that you get in the island that you would appreciate it even more. We have this thing called the Siargao curse. People would come there for 2 weeks, they would stay for 6 months. I have retreat participants now. I have two that came there in November, and until now, they are still there. It's February now, and they are still there right now. So we have those things. It's really something that you would love, and it's simple. I think that's the best. Sorry, I said something a lot, but there's just so much to explain about the beauty of this place.
Yeah, no, it sounds incredible. I've only been to Boracay myself, so it's
Hmm.
time, I think, to go to Siargao. And like you
Yes.
said, as soon as you can. So the next retreat, when is your next retreat with Kayak Connections?
My next retreat, so we're launching a new one actually too, but the next one is in April. So that's going to be in April 6th to May 3. So that's 28 days. And it's the perfect time because it's out of the monsoon season and you still have the waves to surf. So it's a good balance between people who like to surf and people who have good weather. Because around June, July, August, it's super hot in the island. Waves are very flat and it's not something like, it's still nice, it's still beautiful. And then our next one will be in September. And this is very special to my heart because this is our first ever business edition of Kaya. So imagine what I just told you guys, living like simply, but living in paradise, but you're scaling your business. So we have a business coach coming in, we have AI experts coming in, we have an ads agency expert coming in. So it's a lot of people co-creating this experience together, creating workshops with one another. And this is something that I was missing in the island, actually. This is something that I was missing in the island because yes, it's slow living, it's great, but what about people who want to grow their business? So this September one, it's going to be actually starting on August 31st to September 28th. So still like for the whole month of September. And this one is a way for us to scale up while slowing down. So I'm really, really excited to showcase that. I got the best co-working spaces. I got the best coaches and the best people, and of course, our best facilities. So it's going to be amazing. And at the same time, you're still enjoying life. Like a lot of people, when they scale up their business, they're always stressed. Whereas this one, we're going to have a nice balance and harmony between work and travel and life and, yeah, simple living.
Sounds really great. I'm curious, like you mentioned nature and you mentioned surfing. What other things can you do on Siargao Island as part of just being part of Kayak Connections and in general to relax and
Okay.
enjoy?
So it's funny because people ask me, what do you do in Siargao? And the best thing you can do in Siargao is nothing. It's that I think is one of the biggest things why I love Siargao is that I am so okay doing nothing. I remember I brought my best friend there. She was one of my participants for our April retreat last year. She was with me for like she was with me in Spain. She was with me in different places as well for like she knows me for like 8 months already. And when she saw me in Siargao in a cafe, I was sitting there relaxing, having my cup of cacao. She was, Marie, this is your place. I know it. I was like, why? Why do you think so? She said, this is the first time I've seen you in a cafe and you did not open your laptop. And I was like, yeah, this is exactly it. there's a lot of nature that you can just sit down and read a book, enjoy the sounds of the waves. Of course, you have surfing. You have a lot of wellness activities. It's a very healthy place. You have a runners club there. You have yoga in a lot of different places. We have a new MMA gym there, which are like my friends were the one who created that. We have like a gym. We have a CrossFit there. And if you just want to stroll, you can just take your motorbike and do a road trip up north and, come back home in time for your 9 a.m. meeting in Europe, which is 3 p.m. in the Philippines. So it's a lot of these things that is just it's a lifestyle place, and you can do day trips in the islands as well. The other islands are amazing. It's crystal clear waters. You have to see the coconut trees. Yeah, it's just whenever I think about a happy place, I just think of the island. It's just really, really, you can see it from the way I explain, right? I'm just like really, really happy every time I visualize it.
Yeah, and you actually, I'm thinking of you because one thing I hear about the Philippines are the people, that they're incredible. What can you tell me about like what should I expect if I go when I encounter the Filipino people?
I think one of the things that people, nomads especially, will need to understand when they're coming in, especially to Siargao, is each island have their different cultures. Siargao, I would say, is especially because it's very, very westernized. I told you 10 years ago I was already there, and there's already a huge group of expats. So Siargao in itself, there's a lot of, let's say, expats, and there's a lot of local, I forgot the term, um locals from Manila, from Cebu, who all moved to Siargao as well. So when people think about like, oh, Filipino people, like, they all speak good English, I'm like, yes, but they might be just people from the metropolitans who moved there, and then you wouldn't know. In general, though, Filipinos are very, very hospitable. They would welcome you. They are very proud of their heritage, proud of their culture. They will treat you like a brother as well. And they will welcome you into the family, which I love. I have some commentaries from my previous retreat participants where they would buy a drink, like a whole big drink, like a tower drink for a group of Filipinos, and that's their best way to make friends because the Filipinos would just love it. And then I don't drink, so it's not gonna work for me, but they would be like, oh yeah, like yeah, let's try, and they Filipinos in a good way and a bad way, like they love foreigners more than their own. So it's really good for people like, yeah, you're gonna have a really good time because they are very, very friendly. There are also different people. There are Filipinos that are actually very shy, mostly the provincial Filipinos, and then there are the people who are like the Filipinos who are very outgoing and friendly and all of these things to you as well. A lot of people would one of the interesting things, like when I have retreat participants coming there, they would ask me like, Marie, sometimes they ask me for pictures. And I'm like, yeah, that happens. Especially if you're blonde, they're gonna ask you for if they can take a picture of you. Um, and it's just something that they love. I one of the Filipinos told me it's their way of traveling. They can't travel outside, so they would just take photos of other people and be like, yeah, that's my collection of travels, which is it's a very romanticized way, but that's just how it is.
Yeah, but I mean, to feel welcomed and to feel that people are
Very, very
excited
welcome.
to engage with you is really special. And I think it's becoming more rare, in the world as everybody
Yes.
gets used to traveling and seeing
Yeah.
people from around the world. So that's
Yeah,
really
and don't get me
special.
wrong. It's also like, I mean, I would say I'm the bridge, right? I am on both ends. I would say I know the nomads and I know the locals. And most of the time we as locals, we love like the expats, the foreigners, the tourists and everything. And our nature is very hospitable. But there are some times when we see people that are against our culture or are we see this often also where a lot of foreigners, I wouldn't say nomads or expats or anything, in general, where a lot of foreigners would feel superior towards us that's a time that there are conflicts, and I could hear it, I could understand it, I read it through in forums and as well like that. One of the things that made me really think about it is back then, let's say 5 years ago, I can just, okay, this is obviously not a good mirror to myself, but I would ride my scooter in a very chilled way. I will not wear my helmet. It's a very relaxed island, which I love. Now, a lot, I would actually not go out and ride my scooter without a helmet, just because, not because of myself, but because of a lot of other people who just think that, they're disobeying rules in the road, or they're not as careful. I hear a lot of people getting drunk driving already. And most often than not, my sister was a resident doctor in the island, and she told me it's really a lot more foreigners who have been on these motorcycle accidents rather than, us. So these are just the small things that I've seen change. And that's also one of the reasons why we have these retreats, to kind of just like tell them like, hey guys, like, the locals are not appreciating this, or hey guys, like, this is not something that we want to do. So that's kind of like our way. Like, we were trying to make sure that everybody is accepted, and in the future we're not going to be the one to contribute to more conflicts.
Yeah. Do you need to have a scooter on the island? Is that really the best way to get around? Or are there taxis or buses?
Uh, the best way to go around would be a scooter. Obviously, I highly recommend it to everybody. I learned driving a scooter there. It's not like Vietnam or Bali where you're gonna get stressed out. Not yet. I actually taught a few of my participants to drive a scooter now there. It's just the easiest way to do it. And if not, public transportation is also very easy. We have tuk-tuks, and we have tricycles to bring you around. We don't have taxis. There's not a lot of cars in the island, which I love. So it's a very two-wheeled place, and the roads are smaller. We have a few cars, but not too much. And so, yeah, though that's very easy to go around. The thing with tuk-tuks and tricycles, though, is they're very slow, and it's not the most mobile. And walking is a bit hard in the island. We don't have pedestrian lanes. It's typical third world country. But yes, and it's also very hot in the afternoon. So scooters is something that I always recommend.
Okay, that's really good to know when you're coming for that first time. Also,
Yeah.
a few last questions. So on the retreat, is everyone going to be living in the same place, or is it kind of a book accommodation around a co-working space kind of thing?
No, we take care of the accommodations. So we have everybody all in the same complex, with the co-working space just right above, and our pool and our common area is also above. So it's a great place to just like gather everybody. That's one of the things why our retreats are doing really well, is because everybody is in close proximity to one another, and it's nice as well. So no need to think about where to go. And that's actually one of the hardest things. Like, nomads tend to find it really hard to book accommodations in the island, because everything is expensive. Whereas for us, like, my partner accommodation, they've been with me for 3 years now. I know the owners. I know a lot of business owners. Like, this retreat, I made a calculation, and it's actually more expensive if you do it yourself rather than if you do it through us, because of all of the partnerships that I've done before, also with group bookings as well. So like, these are the things, I know them. I know these business owners personally. Like, they're already like part of my community. So it's a give and take, the circular economy for all of us. And that's why I love it. I love to showcase this as a package already.
That's a really really compelling reason to book for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
The last question I have about Kaya is, how structured is the month? Like, how structured is every day? Is it like you do the work you need to do and then you join us at 4 for a cocktail in the patio, or
Yeah.
what kind of program is it on by the day?
So when I designed this program, I really wanted to make sure, because I've been on retreats before, where it's funny, because like, I would go to a retreat, and then after the retreat I need a retreat to or a vacation after that retreat. Like, I'm so tired. So I didn't want my retreat participants to feel that way at all. So ours is like, it's a retreat integrated into regular life. So on the weekdays, you're free to do whatever you want. normally people are working in the afternoon because that's European hours. We have a lot of Europeans. We have a few people who are working night shift, but that's fine for them. And it really depends on what you want to do. A lot of us, we would wake up at 5:30 in the morning. We would do first surf. So we would wake up at 5:30 and then we would surf and then we would sleep at like 10. Other people are more the party goers. They would party and then, but everybody kind of like has a synchronized lunchtime. So we would always have lunch together in different places. It's easy, it's cheaper to eat out than to cook as well. So we have those things. And then in the weekends, we all decided to go together in different places. We would tour them around the island by ourselves, uh, and make sure that these activities are designed based on the needs of nomads again. Because we have a lot of tour operators in the island, and obviously you can do that, but one of the things I noticed is really they prioritize photo taking more than the experience. They're like, oh, let's go here. Let's take a photo. Done. Let's go next place. We're like, no, we want to come here. We want to experience the feeling. We're just bad for my marketing, but I'm not really like the type of like, oh yeah, let's take photo here, take photo here, take photo there. So we really like to make sure that everybody doesn't feel rushed and in my selection process we always ask this to people like, hey, we're not the type of people that will tick off everything in the list. We're the people who would actually enjoy the whole excursion rather than fast-paced travel. So we have overnight trips. That is not something that any tour operator will do. It's something that we designed ourselves. And it's something that is one of the things that are like, strong, makes our group stronger throughout the weeks. And so yeah, we might have some workshops in the mornings of the weekdays, and we would have some workshops in the weekends, but it's not as, it's not the workshops are not even compulsory. Like these are the things that we were trying to do every week, and that's what people really appreciate. It's like living, it's not just, yes, it's a full-on thing that people don't have time to breathe.
I really appreciate hearing that because, yes, I'm right with you. I've been to some very jam-packed Nomad conferences, and it's just you have so much FOMO, and
Yes.
to be able to do
Yeah.
your work and have
Yeah,
less FOMO,
exactly.
but still connect
Yeah.
because I want to connect, but I don't want crazy FOMO. That's that would be, I think, the
Yeah.
best for
Yeah.
everyone. So thank you, Marie, for so eloquently explaining Kaya retreats and Kaya connections to us. It sounds amazing, and Siargao sounds like a dream. And I'm wondering if there's anything else that you want to share with us before we go, including if people want to follow you or go on a Kaya connection, where they can go to find it.
Yes, sure. Well, first of all, thank you for allowing me to share my story and the story of Kaya. I feel like this is something that's not just for nomads, but it is also for the communities where we present our retreats. 5% of all our proceeds always go to an NGO of the place where we're going to. And so that's one of the things that we make sure that we have. And if people want to see and feel the vibrancy of the Philippines, please do join us for April. If they book with you guys, they just have to say that they found us through the Digital Nomad World, and they can get also $50 off. So that's our gift for your subscribers. And if they want to follow us for our next retreats, make sure to subscribe to our newsletter where we create more. We're going to have a new tribe up in November as well in Latin America. I'm not going to say more. That's just something that we're going to try to launch, or the one in September in the Philippines. So you can follow us on Instagram at kayaconnections. That's Kaya Connections. And learn more about us at kayaconnections.com.
Thank you, Marie. So excited and really wishing you all the best in your future retreats.
Thank you so much, Becky.
Thank you.